stuff.
Battlefield Podcast.
Hello and welcome to Battlefield Podcast episode 138. I'm your host Ola aka Chalk1 alongside Tim aka Darkness429. Hey Tim, how are you doing?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good. So this week we have with us a guest that we've had on a few months ago, I think. We're joined again this week by LevelCap. Welcome, LevelCap.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Apparently I have the lower third wrong too. I'll fix that in a bit. But what we're going to be talking about later on with LevelCap is the patch update, the recent server update that made quite a few tweaks, some substantial tweaks, especially to the gunship again, so we'll talk about that for a bit. We'll talk about the news in a little while as well. But first, one thing that we want to mention, or I want to mention, is the Clip of the Week show that we started on YouTube. We're in the third week now. It's a little show where people can submit short 30 to 45 second clips. And every week we put them together into a collection and then put up a poll and people can vote on which clip they like best. I've really enjoyed seeing those clips because it's kind of nice to see short, funny clips or really cool clips, things that happen, and see them all condensed into a little 2 to 4 minute episode. So if you haven't checked it out yet, go to youtube.com/battlefieldpodcast and have a look at that. It's been pretty good.
Yeah, it's done really, really well so far, and it's only episode 3, so props.
Yeah, and lots of views and lots of, I think this last one, episode 2, Barbaric Mustard sent all of his subs over, and I think he won by, I think he got 87% of the vote, so it wasn't close, but it's a pretty cool little show. You should check that out. The other thing I wanted to mention is something called Movember. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that before, but Movember, and I'm not just mispronouncing November, it's a yearly, I don't know, event, awareness fundraising event for men's health. And basically the idea is that on November 1st, participating men will shave off any facial hair that they have, and then throughout the month of November grow a mustache. It has to be a proper mustache. There's different styles. Handlebars are okay, but it can't be a goatee or a beard. And it's basically to raise not only funds but also awareness for men's health. And it's kind of a good cause. And I know most of us probably say, mustache, I'm going to look like an idiot. It's like, well, yeah, but at least you'll stand out. And if someone asks you why you're wearing a mustache, you can tell them that it's for a good cause.
Exactly.
So we've teamed up with mohhq.com. That is the sister site to Battlefieldo. They cover the Medal of Honor franchise. And we've created some international teams. So there's a Canadian team, an American team, there's a team in the UK. And if you want to sign up and you're in a different country, just let us know and we'll help you set up a team. It's all free. You can join. And the whole point of it is that you sort of take pictures and show off your mustache that you're going to grow. Right. And we'll have some prizes as well. I think we're going to give away a Battlefield Podcast t-shirt to the coolest looking stash. And I know that JRB from MOHHQ also was going to donate a prize or two. So maybe we'll award something to whoever raises the most funds or something like that. If you want to check that out, you should head over to either mohhq.com or battlefieldpodcast.com, or I set up tinyurl.com/bfpmovember. There's just some more information there as well as links to those teams, and love for you guys to join. And I know I convinced you, Tim. I know you're a little skeptic because you're not sure what that's going to look like, but who knows? I don't know. I've only ever had a full beard or a goatee. I've never just rocked a mustache, so we'll see what that's going to look like.
It'll be fun.
But while we do that, I think we're going to kick it over to the news. And Tim, maybe we'll have you talk to the first topic here in a second once I play the little stinger, and then I can fix LevelCap's lower third as well.
Sure.
And now for the latest Battlefield news.
There you go.
Cool. So the one of the big news items for this week, we've got the Wake Island dog tag. As I'm not sure if all you've noticed, but if you go and look in your battle log in your list of dog tags, you'll see that you have the Eye Executioner dog tag, and that's all because the PS3 players pulled it out with a huge lead over everyone else. They reached the 19,420 Wake Island rounds, with PC pulling up in second place at 16,817, and Xbox 360 right at their coattails at 16,295. So bravo to you PS3 players out there. Thank you for unlocking this dog tag. What do you guys think of the dog tag?
I just got that it was 1942. I was like, why did they make such a weird... Oh, yeah. What I think about it is I feel kind of helpless on the PC side, just watching those PS3 players just go way ahead, and it's like, well, I don't know, I'm just one guy, what am I going to do? But
Right.
at the same time, it is just a dog tag. It's cool that they have you throw back to the original Battlefield map, the first map that anybody ever played Battlefield on, Wake Island, which was awesome back in 1942.
Yeah.
Now I think it's probably one of the worst balanced maps in the game. So, like, here, just play this map all day while U.S. destroys Russia over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, there is a lot of that, isn't it? It's not the most... It can be a really frustrating map depending on what side you're on.
Exactly.
And I was surprised that... I guess I wasn't aware how large the Battlefield community on the PlayStation 3 is. I thought that the PC group here was going to win this one hands down, and it just barely beat the Xbox.
Yeah.
So I was surprised about that.
I don't know if it was just PC players and Xbox players are kind of like, meh, it'll happen at some point, so we'll just wait. Or there's just not enough of us, and then PS3 just squashed us.
Or
So-
we don't care enough or something.
Or we just
I know
don't.
that
Oh, we were all just
Yeah.
meh, and we just didn't care.
we
But
played Wake Island when this first started. I'm saying Tim, you and I, and Chalk 2 as well. We played quite a bit of Wake Island to the point where it's just like, okay, enough already. I got to do something else because it's just
Yeah, it does get
it is a little monotonous if you do it over and over again. But
it's funny because BF2, you would do the 24/7 Wake Island servers, and you'd play that constantly, over and over and over and over and over again. So it's interesting to see how the map has shifted from BF2 to BF3. But I'm actually disappointed with the dog tag. I really wish it would have had something to kind of commemorate the 10-year anniversary, not this. Let me put a what is that? An M1911 in the skeleton's mouth. I don't get it. I don't understand what it has to do with 1942.
Yeah, why
Yeah,
not
the
something
dog tag
that
is
actually
weird.
shows the island or something, or some sort of old school
Right.
thing? But I know it's like some dude getting his like brains blown out or something.
Yeah.
even if it was a 1911 pistol instead of a Glock, from the looks of it, it's something. It's a little odd, that dog tag. But it is what it is. I guess they're going to do future ones, competitions like this, where, in this first one, once it was unlocked on one platform, everyone got it. But I guess in the future, it's going to be things like, only when your platform unlocks it are you going to get it. So I guess we have some work to do on the PC side.
Oh no.
By the way, I wanted to mention in relation to this that we now have a PlayStation 3 Platoon on Battlelog as well. That's one thing that's a little annoying because, I was able to create the PC Platoon, but I can't create a PS3 or Xbox Platoon for the podcast because I don't have the game on those platforms. That's a little annoying. But so luckily we have some great fans out there that did this for us. True Tactics, he runs the PS3 Platoon. If you search just for Battlefield Podcast, you'll see all three of them. So feel free to join that. If you want to. It's open to everybody. So,
Yeah.
It's
Come
cool.
join us.
What's next, Tim?
You want to? Let's see. So, pitch your map concept contest. Dice had just announced the 10 winners of the pitch your map concept contest. Try saying that 10 times fast because it's not going to happen. And so now Dice needs your help with deciding which map is the overall winner. It's really interesting if you go through and you go to the blogs.battlefield.com and just check out the winners of this, or the list of winners for the overall winning spot. The people that were picked, they had anything from CGI laid out maps, they had hand drawn like cartoon map layouts. They just had one guy built a whole map out of Legos and laid it out for him. It was really cool to see the diversity of different ways that people could pitch out a map idea. So it's really cool to see how you can trying to figure out how I want to explain this. How people have their own idea of what they think a good map is. Because there's some really great map ideas, and then there's a couple you're kind of like, I don't know if it would work in Battlefield 3. It might work in a different game, but what do you guys think?
I thought there were some interesting ideas. I kind of like the idea of the guy who did the sinking carrier, where like you're fighting in close quarters inside the hole on the deck of the carrier, and then as the map progresses, it maybe shifts a bit more, and all of a sudden becomes a little bit more vertical. So the layout changes. I kind of like the idea of dynamic maps changing and stuff like that. And they haven't confirmed if that's what we'll see in Aftermath, but it's sort of been like stated that there's going to be some form of like minor tremor or something, and the idea of changing a map in real time as you go through it could be a lot of fun, especially for a multiplayer game.
It would be nice if it was dynamic too, so it was always different every time. It was never the same way, so that'd be neat. Yeah,
the interesting thing is that they asked people to really go through the paces as far as setting up what the concept of the map is, not just saying, oh, it'd be nice to have a map with like ships in it. They actually had to go through some effort to outline it, just the way that they would do at DICE when they're deciding what maps to build in a future game. So, yeah. I think if the audio is a little bit crackly, I think that's the stream. I'm not sure why it just started. Sorry. I don't know. Yeah, it's Skype. There's still no really good software to pull Skype into something that will stream it on. So it's always capturing the screen and then the audio. So it's a bit crackly. I apologize.
Well, anywho, so other news. DICE has pretty much laid out what their ideas are for dealing with anti-cheating protocols and whatnot. I'm not sure if everyone's realized this, but as of now, there's a way to go in and modify files locally that can take out the blue tint of the game, and DICE is aware of this, and they're saying, hey, this is our game, this is the way we've made it, this is how we want it to look, and if you're going to go in and alter our files, we're going to ban you, because we're going to look at that as a hack. And really the way that you're able to do it is the same way that anyone would do it with an aimbot or anything else. It's a memory injection program that goes in and alters the files, and so PB is going to pick up on it and it's going to ban you. So they were pretty clear on it. They're like, hey, let's not do this. We're not gonna stand up for it.
Well, they used to do this back in, I remember this in the Counter-Strike days, where you could openly modify what player models looked like in the game. So, a lot of people created really cool, high-def textured player models to make the game look nicer. But then there'd also be just like plain red and plain green player models. So all you'd see is the enemy, oh, look, it's the red guy. So you really, it was very obvious and really a form of cheating.
Right.
So I'm not surprised that it's probably really hard for them to tell whether you're trying to remove the blue or inserting something else in the game that will help you see enemies more easily or something. So
right.
I don't know. I don't mind the blue. It makes it unique. No,
yeah, I mean, I've seen the pictures of them taking the blue tint out and changing the colors around a little bit, and it's pretty, but they made it this way for a reason, because that's how they wanted it to look. There's also there's a program out that's made by the same guys who do the BF3 borderless and the BF3 settings editor. They've come out with a color tweaker, and apparently that is okay. They said that that's fine. We're not going to ban for that. It was DICE didn't actually say this. It was the people who run all the PB bans and the other banning softwares that run server side that they were actually going to kick for that.
You'd have to be so careful with that stuff, because because
one
person says it's okay, all of a sudden you get banned, your stats get reset or whatever, and you're like, well, but so-and-so said it was fine. It's like, well,
right.
It's probably not, though.
There's also an issue with it that not a lot of people are aware about, but you can tweak a lot more than just the color stuff, and they're trying to keep that a little bit under wraps. But like just some major game file imbalances that people can use to actually turn it into a much higher level hack. But yeah, I agree that people shouldn't be able to take out blue tint. It's like, especially in the PC gaming community, we're going to turn off whatever settings we can to give us an advantage online. Right. Like, nobody uses motion blur because it's just like you want to be able to see far away. So unless everybody has to have it, it's just going to get turned off. So you might as well make it like definitely on all the time if that's what you want your game to look like. Otherwise, everybody's just going to shut it off. Whatever you can do to give yourself an advantage.
Exactly. And that's just not just Battlefield 3. That's just PC gaming as a whole. And even the console gamers are starting to get into that side where they're altering files on the console side and whatnot. So it's interesting to see just as gamers as a whole, like what we try to do to get that one up.
Yeah, it's really hard. Every time you're making tweaks to the game, whether it's even in config files that are somewhat accessible, but the more extreme the hack, like if you have to go through a whole bunch of different things and you have to download a tool here and edit that file in hex editor, it's probably not okay.
Exactly. No.
Especially with an online game that has stats and if it's a single player game, for the most part, people don't care. You do whatever you want. You're not impacting anybody else. But it's nice though that DICE released that statement and at least officially sort of set the record straight, saying, it's not okay. We don't condone this. So.
Yeah, it's funny, actually, the level at I know some people that will go and they'll play the game at odd resolutions compared to their monitor, so it stretches out the image from side to side, making soldiers kind of wider and easier for them to see and actually shoot.
Weird.
And that's the competitive scene. Like, they actually play like that. So they'll take it to that level just to get an advantage there.
Wow. It's kind of sad, because it just destroys the way that the game looks.
Yeah, it's like, alright, everything just looks stretched out and bad now, but it gives you an advantage. I like to find the balance between good-looking game and also being able to be competitive.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, those red and green players in Counter-Strike certainly didn't make the game look any better either. So there's a lot of, whenever there's competition involved, people will do whatever they can get away with. So
exactly.
The next update we'll talk about a little later on is the server update that balances the gunship, and sort of the highlights are balancing the gunship and removing the mini-map in hardcore mode optionally. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But it's kind of nice because it's one of those things that actually we mentioned a while ago. I think Gustav Halling tweeted that that option to remove the mini-map in hardcore mode was there now. So they are listening, and I think more and more recently I've seen updates on the server side that didn't require any kind of client patch to push out, because it seems to me anytime that they need to do a client patch, especially with the consoles involved, that's where the delays come in. You got to wait 2-3 weeks for Microsoft or Sony or whatever, and when you want to try to match that all up with the timing, it becomes kind of ugly. So it's always nice when they can tweak it on the server side and it just applies to everybody. Battlelog usually goes down for an hour or something while they make some changes, but this other story, this is the last story in our news section we're going to talk about. This came out a few days ago. Talks about Bad Company being turned into a TV show. I found this highly interesting. This is apparently an effort by Fox and what is the studio you said earlier? Happy Madison?
Yeah.
Adam Sandler's production company.
So
that makes you feel good.
I know it's like, how does that fit in? I'm not sure how Adam Sandler goes with Bad Company. I know Bad Company has some humor in it, but I guess what they're talking about creating an hour-long action comedy. I guess that's where Happy Madison comes in, based on Battlefield Bad Company, and I assume based on those characters, the 4 characters. I don't remember all their names, but that was certainly one of the things in Bad Company. In the single player, it had a good story component to it. It was entertaining. So I can see how that would turn into a TV show. What are your thoughts on it, LevelCap? Is it a good idea, bad idea?
Well, when I first heard the concept, I was just immediately ready to hate it, and just thinking like, oh god, this is gonna be so bad. Nothing has ever come out of a video game that's turned out to be like good on screen, like historically speaking. But then again, if you think about it from the producer's standpoint, well, they get the marketing of the whole Battlefield Bad Company, and then the story itself is pretty open. I mean, you got like 4 characters or so who are sort of soldiers, and they're being hunted by the government and their enemies and blah, blah, blah. You could probably make an interesting TV show out of that, and then if you just stick Bad Company onto it, all of a sudden you increase your viewership from all the Battlefield guys who are curious about it. So you could make a good show as long as, that it's well written.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to the writing. I'm not sure if it's if it's going to be... It's always hard to tell with Fox. I don't know if it's going to be on Fox or if it's just Fox being the... I mean, Fox owns so many properties. So I don't know where it would actually show up. But, you know, Bad Company, part of that was sort of dirty humor, mature language to a degree. So not something you typically see next to, you know, The Simpsons on primetime Fox.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But, it could be interesting. I think out of all the Battlefield franchises, this one's clearly the one that most fits in. And like you alluded to, there's been quite a few gaming properties turned into things on TV, but they've mostly been movies. I don't know if there's been a lot of things turned into a TV series. And in general, as far as the market goes lately, I find that there's been a lot more good TV shows coming out compared to movies, actually. You see a lot of great TV shows on channels like HBO and FX and Showtime. You know, you have quality acting and good stories. So maybe this can go along with that flow and actually be good. I don't know.
Yeah. And scary enough, the TV shows are starting to look like movies. I was sitting in the movie theater a couple weeks ago, and the trailer came on for a TV show, and I thought it was a movie trailer. And then it stood, I was like, on Fox in fall. I was like, whoa. So,
Does True Tactics, does Fox own FX? Because FX is a decent channel. It would fit well, I think, on something like FX.
It could be on FX, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's good. So let's dive a little bit more into what this patch was all about.
Battlefield Podcast. Spotlight of the Week.
So this patch, I'm not even sure when it came out. It came out several days ago. And like I said, it was just server-side, so there was no client download or nothing that you had to wait for. But one of the big things that they did, they tweaked the gunship some more, especially in rush mode. And I think this is probably the most major tweak they've made to the gunship. They've played with respawn times before, but what they've now actually done is that the attackers only get a respawn of the gunship when they destroy an MCOM. Mm-hmm. So it's not timed. You actually have to PTFO to be rewarded with the gunship. I thought that was a really good idea.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's probably one of the best changes they've made to the rush mode, because they've already said they're not getting rid of the AC-130, which everybody is like, well, if you just get rid of that, then you got Battlefield Rush, and it's balanced, and everybody likes it. But they got to keep it in there, because that was the main pull for Armored Kill. It was like the AC-130 at the forefront of all the marketing, so you can't take it out of the game, I guess, is their perspective. And if you got to keep it in, I guess that's a good way to do it. You know, like just give them one per MCOM. And since it's relatively easy to shoot down, you know, everybody just spawns with some Iglas at the start, you take it down, and then you can focus on the ground game, which is honestly what everybody wants to do. They don't want to have to be worrying about artillery shots blowing them up when they're setting up to take down infantry.
Yeah, and I think that has been a big problem, especially on Rush. I think the gunship has been really overpowered on the attacking side, so we'll see if this will accomplish it and sort of balance the game. I've been in a lot of Rush games where the attackers had a hard time destroying MCOMs, but yeah, we'll see. I think it's definitely the right thing to do. I think just tweaking the respawn times all the time didn't really help. You know, going even from 60 to 120 seconds didn't really make enough of a difference. So, and it's a good reward. It actually makes people maybe want to destroy the MCOM more, because the gunship, even though it's usually only in the air for a short time, it can really make a difference. So,
yeah,
depends
absolutely.
on the map too.
It decimate the entire defense in a few seconds if you're not careful.
Yeah. So I guess now you could still dominate a rush round as an attacker if you do it well. If you use the gunship to weaken the defenses, you know, it probably goes down in the process, and you destroy an MCOM and you get it back. So, you know, you actually have to have some more teamwork to get it accomplished. But it'd be good, I think. In Conquest mode, the gunship will always have a 60-second spawn delay, no matter what the server spawn delay setting. I guess that, you know, there's a lot of fast vehicle spawn servers on the PC side, certainly. And I guess it was running spawning too fast on some servers that had modified that. So now it's always 60 seconds. The servers can no longer control that, which is good, because I know, Tim, we had the experience where sometimes you'd shoot it down and while it's exploding, the new one's already spawned in again.
It looked like a phoenix. It would just emerge from the ashes, and there it was again. And you could spam it. You could just sit behind it with a helicopter and just hit it over and over and over again, and you'd constantly just rack up these kills over and over and over again. So I'm glad that they put this spawn delay.
And you know that
because it definitely helps out with the balancing.
That spawns in the gunship. You know, finally there's an open seat in the gunship. Yay!
Right,
boom.
exactly, and boom, you're dead. And it's frustrating when you want to play in the gunship because you feel like, you know, I can make a difference with the gunship if, you know, there's a certain flag that's having a hard time and you get in there and you're trying to defend it or whatever, and then all of a sudden just it goes away. And then it's back and it goes away again. So having this delay, I think, will help out with balancing on Conquest.
And we've talked about the gunship at length in previous episodes, but we haven't talked to you about it, LevelCap. What are your thoughts on the gunship in general, and maybe as it stands, you know, in Rush compared to Conquest, because it's quite different now between the two modes?
I think DICE messed up with the gunship, and not in like any sort of they didn't balance it properly or this or that. I think the whole philosophy of the gunship is a bad one, and in multiplayer first-person shooter video games, you really have to apply the philosophy of like the greater good philosophy. You know, what's going to be the most fun for the most amount of people. And the gunship is a lot of fun for 1 to 2 people, and it basically ruins the game for everybody else on the receiving end. So you put in a device that makes the game really fun for that one or two people who are just destroying everybody and just makes everybody else want to rage quit. So from a designer standpoint, it's just a really bad concept. They'd have to put some way of putting it in the game for it to be a lot of fun for people on the ground. You'd have to counteract that like level of fun, but I just don't see of there being any way to balance that in AC-130 in Battlefield.
Because really, the balancing attempts that they've made so far, you know, are all time-based.
Right.
So it's all controlled by how long it's in the air. And if you have good jet pilots or helicopter pilots, that time is usually pretty short. If you don't, or I think there's one of the maps, is it Armored Shield on one of the game modes where there actually are no jets on the other team?
Yep.
So it's harder to take it down because all you have is helicopters. You know, and you know, people fly helicopters.
Yeah, there's questionable balance in, especially the Armored Shield Rush map, where they give the attackers the mobile artillery. Have you guys played on that one yet?
Yep.
And it's you just give the attackers the mobile artillery. The defenders have no tools to take it out as long as it just sits back by their spawn, and you can just rain down death and destruction on the defending team's MCOM all game. And it was like I was just sort of hitting my head on the table, like how did they let this mechanic go through for the final Rush game? So there's definitely like some elements that you're just looking at, like how much did they actually playtest this before they decided to ship it off, you know? But they definitely said they playtested a lot with the AC-130, so who knows?
I feel like there's been a large outcry for model changes to the C-130, like anti-air turret positions, like the one on the rear that has the huge blind spot with the tail. So if you have someone who is a good jet pilot that kind of sits behind it the right way, and you can hit it all day long and not have to worry about getting hit by the anti-aircraft fire, or coming up from the belly and hitting underneath the AC-130.
The blind spots are bad. Yeah.
Right, the blind spots are really bad, and I've read it on Reddit, and I like that, Reddit on Reddit, and seen it in other forums and whatnot. And there's a big outcry for it, and I feel like they always saying, like, you know, we're looking at the community, we're seeing what we're doing, but like you said, Ola, it's always just server side fixes, it's spawning issues, it's things like that, or even just the placement of an anti-aircraft piece. Yeah. But there's nothing to do with the actual modification of the AC-130 itself, and that's frustrating.
There was one. I think it was one, just to comment on the AA gun that you were talking about. I think they already did move that one. I think there was.
They did.
Tweet, right?
They did. In the last patch they did, a server side patch. They said they moved it. But they still yet to do anything with the actual AC-130, and I'm frustrated by it.
I don't see what the problem of putting one of the guns on the bottom would be. It would make more sense.
Exactly.
Then you got a top gunner, a bottom gunner. Yeah, you have a bigger field of view, but still, they're not going to absolutely dominate air. You got a good jet pilot; he's going to be able to figure out how to come in, take it out anyway. And then
Right.
you compare to since the anti-air turrets are fictional anyway, the real AC-130 doesn't have them on it, so you kind of have creative license with that. I mean, just compare it to the B-17 bomber. You know, that thing had turrets all over it. Why are you giving us this new modern, upgraded version with anti-air turrets and then putting them both in the same spot, giving them the exact same field of view? Doesn't really make a lot of sense.
I think the underbelly turret would definitely be a good thing to do.
You could technically argue that the minigun could act as a underbelly turret, but it doesn't have a full 360-degree view. It has a very limited area of how far it can swivel, front and back and left and right.
I've also noticed recently a lot that the hit indicators, the little red marks on the side of the screen that are supposed to tell you where you're being hit or shot from, a lot of times aren't very accurate. And I've spent a lot of time in the gunship where you're being shot at and you can tell there's a jet or something behind you that's very slow and just unloading machine gun fire. And you're spinning around, you're trying to find it. The whole thing's on fire, so there's smoke everywhere. You can't see 60 degrees behind you anyways. It's really frustrating. It says, oh, shit, I might as well just jump out now.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a universal bug, too, for just infantry as well. I can't tell you how many times I've died turning around to look at where the hit indicator is, and the guy was actually 180 degrees the other way. And I'm just like,
I think that's new. I don't know. I don't think that's been there all the time. I noticed it a lot recently.
In the last patch.
What's that?
They said that they fixed it in the previous patch, the big patch that we had that was client side.
Well, I think that's when they broke it.
Oh, you think that's when they broke it? I mean, I can understand that.
Because I was just playing just the other night, and I swear I had the indicators on the left side of the screen, and I died, and I could clearly see the guy who killed me was on the right side of the screen, to my right, complete opposite. And the whole point of those is, I'm being hit to the left. Let me turn over there, and use that. So it's been frustrating. There's a few things that they've broken lately. I'm going to save the rant, I think, about ECM and flares, but I think they've broken below the radar with stingers, like completely. I've flown the helicopter at 5 meters or whatever the scale is above the ground, and gone from no lock to acquiring to being locked on to being hit, and it's like, so clearly that's not working at all. And flares, ECM and flares are so hit and miss nowadays that it's really frustrating, I find. I don't know.
Yeah. I've been flying with some guys who, like, all they do is fly the chopper, so they know every little nook and cranny about how the mechanics work and stuff. And stingers and iglas below radar does not affect them, so they just lock on and they're good to go. So your only defense is flare or trying to ECM and get close to the ground. You can still play well, but you have to be in communication. You have to be flying extremely conservatively. Stingers just gotten like such a boost since the last patch. It's kind of insane.
Definitely.
So they had a couple other tweaks, obviously, on this patch, updating or improving server stability, which is always good. That's the kind of behind-the-scenes stuff that we don't really experience, except for when we get those weird disconnection errors that say something bad happened or whatever. Some of those funny messages that are like, okay. So maybe they've tweaked some of those. They had a knife takedown fix, which I thought was really interesting. Apparently, there could only be one knife takedown happening on the entire server at any given time.
How great is that?
So if someone was already in the motion of knifing someone, and someone else was trying to do it, it wouldn't work.
Yeah,
that's bizarre.
And that's been in the game since launch. And people, that's the knife bug. They just called it the knife bug, where you try and knife somebody, you get that weird thing where your knife animation stops, and then you can't swing again, and the guy usually turns around and kills you. Super aggravating. And they just figured out that it was because two people are trying to knife at the same time. And this was gamers that figured it out. They documented it, posted it, and then DICE was able to fix it. But I mean, that's been in the game for over a year. It's kind of crazy to think about.
Well, and you can see how that's kind of hard to troubleshoot that, because especially if you have a large server or a small server, even having that happen at the same time, it's a little difficult to set up. And you'd think, why would that be the case? But I'm glad that they fixed that, because that's. Anytime that you're knifing somebody and something doesn't work as it's supposed to, it's probably the most frustrating thing.
Oh, it's so
you're so vulnerable.
Yeah.
And then they also fixed the MVP premium member score. Apparently there was a chance of becoming MVP during exclusive double XP events. So something to do with the ribbons being calculated into the total score or something like that. So they tweaked that, which is good, I guess. Oh, and they finally fixed the bug where a kill was listed as a vehicle when a player actually killed someone with a mine. I've seen that.
I've seen that. There was how you could get your EOD bot kill by using the javelin. It was the exact same issue.
Yeah, and a lot of times you'd be in a vehicle and you'd get blown up, and it would say you were killed by something that wasn't the case for sure. So
right, exactly. You're like,
so
that's
you better
a
have
buggy.
gotten your EOD bot kill because that little trick doesn't work anymore.
Oh yeah, wait till you try and unlock the camos by getting 10 equipment destroyed with your EOD bot. That's gonna be fun. Yeah.
I have 3, and here's my strategy. I've seen a lot of people lay down somewhere and drive their EOD bot all the way across the map. I think that's ludicrous because, first of all, they're hard to drive, and as soon as you run into an enemy, they're just going to blow you up anyway. So I'm just walking around as an engineer with the EOD bot equipped. If I come across an enemy tugs or radio beacon or something like that, then I pull out the EOD bot, put it like right next to it, and blow it up. So I've gotten 3, I think, so far. But it's frustrating, and I think the worst part of that is you have to give up your torch. Yeah. So I'm an engineer, but I'm useless.
I hate having you in a tank now.
I know.
You can't repair me.
No, I'm just like, sorry, dude, I got the EOD bot. I can get the EOD bot out. Heekwan does that, actually. He'll get out of the tank when it's on fire, he'll put the EOD bot down, and he'll try to repair it with that, but it takes way too long, because you get in the EOD bot, it drives off the wrong way, it goes sideways, and...
If anything, I think I should thank DICE for doing this, because I get chuckles for driving around and all I see these little EOD bots pass me. It's really funny to see.
I didn't have DX Story running the other day to record it, but I went head-to-head on the bridge at Carcant with another EOD bot. I'm going this way, I see the other EOD bot coming at me, and we did a little spin around, pirouette, and I ended up killing it. I wish I could have recorded that, but clearly that guy was after the same thing as me. So that was entertaining anyways.
It does make you wonder who's in charge of writing up the assignments, because most other games, it's like if you want to unlock a camo for a gun, it's like, all right, use that gun for a while, or maybe use it with this attachment, or get this many headshots with it or whatever. It makes you play with the weapon, you got to become proficient with it, then they'll give you new camo. And the assignments for this are just kind of like, do this thing that's totally not going to help your team. You're going to get extremely frustrated trying to get the requirement. You're going to be doing a bad job. You're going to be getting killed all the time. And it just makes you wonder, like, my theory is that the people who actually implemented it didn't have to go out and do it themselves. Like, they never went out and tested it. Because if they had
go and do them, yeah.
Yeah, but if you made the devs required to actually do the assignments themselves, they would probably say, oh, wow, this is extremely boring or detrimental to team play. Maybe we should think of something a little bit more helpful.
I think it was some guy just went through a horrible breakup.
Well, and they seem to pick some things that they feel are underused, like maybe the mortar or something like that, so they make you get 25 kills with that. But
well, then tweak the mortar to make it more useful then.
Well, that's more difficult.
So
but yeah, a lot of those assignments are, especially the ones this last batch, or they all have 3 parts, and sort of 2/3 of them are okay. There are 100 kills with that particular weapon, and then you have to get 15 ribbons of a certain type that sort of relate to the class that the weapon's for. Right, so that's fine. Even if you don't try to get those, you'll get those eventually. But then there's the
silly tests.
There's the EOD bot kills, the laser designated assists, which are, you could argue that they're useful. I mean, I use the laser designator a bit, especially if you're in a third seat in a tank or something. But the EOD bot kill is certainly one that's like, yeah, okay. I would never go and destroy any equipment with an EOD bot. Like, that happens probably twice, during regular gameplay ever. It's not something that happens very frequently. And the mortar, was a pain in the ass to use anyways.
Yeah. If you want a new mortar camo, then you should have to get mortar kills, right? That makes sense.
Could you imagine? I'd love to have camo on a mortar.
I want an Arctic tiger camo for my mortar.
I was actually saying that all these camos, first of all, they're all for the same weapons that already have one weapon camo on them or not, or something like that. I'm thinking, soldier camos would be nice. Now that we have at least the one snow map, it'd be nice to get some sort of snow camo. I think that'd be kind of cool to have that.
Yeah, absolutely. You should get a you should be able to turn the mortar into like a little bush or something, like get a bush.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Camo for it, and then you could just have like a little bush in the middle of the street. You could hide behind it.
Or a box. Could be like Metal Gear Solid.
There you go.
A little cardboard box.
I would love to see the little cardboard boxes moving around the street.
A little exclamation point that pops up on
it. Oh, man. So they also fixed the radio beacon. Apparently, like, I've never seen this before, but there was some areas where if you placed it in a certain position, you could get to areas that you weren't supposed to get to.
Wow.
I think this was a big Metro thing, but this has been around forever as well, and it's taken them probably almost a year to fix.
Yeah. I mean, what about parachuting on top of equipment that you're not supposed to be able to get on top of? They've never really addressed that because it's become so integrated to the game style, especially in, like, say, TDM or something. Have you guys ever tried to play, like, Gulf of Oman TDM? And there's a few servers that run it, and everybody in there is just playing sniper and parachuting in on top of the buildings, and it's just, like, that's aggravating if you're trying to play infantry, but people have become so fond of it that it's like, I guess DICE doesn't want to fix it, even though it's incredibly imbalanced.
They didn't remove the ability to end up on... I mean, there's that big construction building in Gulf of Oman. Is that what they're talking about as well? That you can't parachute onto that anymore? You can still do that, right?
You can. Yeah, you absolutely can. I just don't like the idea of being able to get into buildings only via spawn beacon. Like, there should be a way for an infantry to get up there. And in TDM, you don't have vehicles to airdrop on there. So, literally, there's people in locations you just can't get to.
Yeah. That's a good point, yeah. Because at least on those other maps, like, say, the radio tower on... what's it called? One of the original maps. The border one. Anyways, the big radio tower that falls down. There's always... Yeah, thank you. There's always a sniper or two up there, and it's kind of... at least you can do something about that if you just get somebody up in a helicopter and clear it out or something like that. So, but yeah, if there's areas that you can't get to and TDM where you don't have the ability to send a helicopter up or something, that's pretty good. Apparently, you can no longer enter vehicles while climbing a ladder.
Okay.
That
so these weird fixes at the end.
Pressing issue.
I didn't know that was an issue.
I didn't either. I was just being...
It's one of those bizarre things.
Yeah.
And then fixed a rare potential crash issue when loading a new map. So,
yay.
Just other stuff. Is there anything still outstanding, like big ticket problem, glitch, whatever, that they should fit? And I don't mean glitch like you can get into the wall or something, but obviously we talked about the hit indicators.
Big glitch that I've actually talked with. I've sent Demise a tweet, not a tweet, a PM on Reddit, and he responded to me about this and was asking me about it. But I constantly get the reload bug, where you reload your weapon, and say you got 4 clips left in your magazine, you reload. It does the reload animation. You put the magazine back in, and you still only have 4 bullets. Then I pop around the corner, like shoot 4 bullets at a guy. He turns around and kills me.
I'm glad I'm not crazy, because I thought that's happened to me before, where I thought I reloaded, and then when I'm engaging someone, all of a sudden I'm out again. So I guess I haven't been paying enough attention, but I thought I saw the animation, but there's actually a bug, eh?
That's been in the game since launch. I've talked to the devs about it, so I know they're aware of it, and it has to have to do something with netcode, where it like plays the animation on my end, but somehow the signal doesn't get sent to the server side or something weird like that. But it happens to me like 5 to 10 times per game.
Ouch.
So I've literally built it into like my playstyle, where it's like I do the reload animation, check my ammo counter now to make sure it's full, and then sometimes do a double reload just to get that magazine back in. And I mean, if it's gotten to the point where I'm literally like, that's part of my checklist now to play, is to check for the reload bug, I mean, that's a big problem.
Yeah, that's not good. Hopefully they'll tweak that and fix it eventually. I wish that they would tweak the flares or something. Not tweak them, but make them more reliable. I don't know what the problem is with them. Yeah. But a lot of times I think they go too far in one direction. You know, at first it was too easy to take a helicopter down, then they buff the helicopter, then it's too hard to take them down, and they go back the other way. It's hard to find that happy medium, I think.
There's never been a happy medium. It's always something wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating.
I like AT4. You know, like, I always reference Bad Company 2 because I think it's the best Battlefield game ever made in terms of just overall balance. But in Bad Company 2, you know, you could lock onto the chopper if you hit it with a tracer dart, which was already hard to do. So there was a level of skill involved there.
Those tracer darts were cool.
Yeah, they were very cool. But then you had the AT4 guys, and those things were hard to fly, but you could get really good with them and take down a chopper, you know, that was trying to evade you at long range. And it was a good balance, you know. The chopper pilots had to be mobile constantly, being aware of what rockets might be flying at them, not getting too low for those tracer darts over infantry, so it kind of pulled you back from just getting right in the face of infantry and destroying them. And it was just overall a really good balance, and it's kind of sad that they didn't take some of those like things that they did really right with previous titles and just like threw them out the window for BF3.
Maybe they'll bring them back for BF4.
Well, and that's one of the things that I think when people start speculating about Battlefield 4 is going to be like, you know, I think it's probably not going to be all that different. It's going to be, but it's going to include a lot of the things that they didn't do in Battlefield 3. Because I think that they're at a stage now with Battlefield 3 where, yeah, they'll patch it and they'll fix bugs, but they're not going to make any big changes to the core gameplay.
No.
Yeah.
It's too late for that. So that's it for that patch. I want to remind everybody again about Movember. So check out the tinyurl / BFP Movember. And also subscribe to us on YouTube. We're on Twitter at BF Podcast. We're on Facebook. That's actually, we need more Facebook likes. It's like 82 of them. It's ridiculous.
Everyone has a Facebook. Come on, guys.
Yeah. What about you, LevelCap? What are you up to these days on YouTube and otherwise?
Still doing Battlefield, trying to get my camo unlocks and banging my head against the table. Playing Planetside now, actually. So I don't know how much I can talk about that on the Battlefield podcast, but I'm enjoying that actually quite a lot. And I'm anticipating Medal of Honor, and I'm skeptical, and I'm curious of what that's going to be like because I did the whole BF4 beta purchase Medal of Honor thing.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Okay.
I'll give it a try, see if it's any good, and I'm just waiting on any news coming out for Aftermath because I actually think Aftermath is going to kick ass. Like they're taking it back to infantry with maybe 1 or 2 pieces of armor in a map. And this sort of war-torn cities, and that's where Battlefield, I think, is the most popular and does the best. You know, it's like people just love good infantry combat, and I know Battlefield's always sort of come from this big, giant vehicle gameplay style, but that's become less and less popular because people want a more balanced game, I think, overall. The general population does, and I'm not saying I don't like Armored Kill, but I think Aftermath is going to kick some ass.
I think it's interesting because I think Close Quarters, they clearly went all infantry and literally close quarters, small maps. And then Armored Kill, they went the opposite, where it's all about armored warfare, large maps. And I think you're right. I think Aftermath may be that happy medium where you have some armor, a lot of infantry, but not tiny maps, sort of medium-sized maps, maybe even more similar to the setups that we saw in the original Battlefield 3, just like the vanilla maps. And I found it so interesting, and there's a lot of people when Armored Kill came out, they're like, you know what, Close Quarters isn't bad.
Yeah. You know, I always thought it was a bad marketing decision to break the expansions out into those themes of Armored Kill, Close Quarters. I thought they should do maybe geographic themes or like location-based themes, and then you can stick in a big armored map. You can do a close quarter map. You can put in your medium maps. That way, each expansion has something for everybody, and you can sort of tie it together with a geographic theme or whatever. And I think overall that would have been a lot better for the expansions. More people would have bought them, and you would have had less like unanimous hate against things. Like Armored Kills got serious backlash because most people are hating it.
Well, in Close Quarters, you pissed off a lot of people who didn't like that, who wanted more armor, and then Armored Kill, you pissed off the other half.
Exactly.
So I know what you mean. So I don't know who they could piss off in Aftermath. We'll see. Probably this whole thing, by the way, about new weapons. Did we ever get proper official word? Are there going to be new weapons or not? I've seen it both ways.
I think they pulled it. Like that's the last thing I heard. I can't remember who was talking about it, but they were talking about actually filing a lawsuit or something for false advertising. Where they initially said that Aftermath said it was going to have like 10 new guns or something. Then all of a sudden that disappeared from the feature list. And now people are like, well, I bought Premium thinking I was going to get these new guns. Like, what's the deal? So, who knows? I mean, it's hard to say if, like, somebody just forgot to copy and paste it into the feature list. It seems like a pretty big feature to forget to leave out. So, I'm kind of worried on that front.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see what happens. I'm sure we'll find out more about the details of exactly what's going to be included in Aftermath. Plus, we still have Endgame after that, so a lot of people have said, and rightfully so, if we don't get new weapons in Aftermath, maybe we'll get them in Endgame. And someone in the chat just said, how many guns do you need? And there's already a lot of them.
Use more guns, man. You can always have more guns.
So it's all good. I think Aftermath is going to be cool. So we'll see.
Yeah, what else are we going to complain about? Imbalances, you know? Like, we have to keep the imbalance complaints going, so you have to keep adding more guns to the game so we can say OP, man.
That's true. Well, that happened in Close Quarters.
Yeah.
The AUG was, overpowered when it first came out, which it probably wasn't, but everyone was using it.
The AUG? Oh, no, it wasn't. I don't think it was overpowered. But, have you guys tried the new M5K since the update? That thing's a lot of fun in close quarters. It's like a mini AEK that you can hip fire, like with amazing accuracy.
Yep. I've noticed more and more people have been using it lately, and I'm like, I just got killed by it, not expecting it.
It's like it's tied for the second highest damaging weapon in the game.
Is it really?
It's a little
wow.
PDW that you can just waste everybody in close quarters.
Oh, that's sad.
I think that's the thing.
Know what I'm
Every time they do
switching
a
to.
patch, that all changes. So you always have to consult the community as to see what's the best quote unquote gun to use now, because they always tweak them. I had no idea that they tweak the M5K, especially like that. So I'll have to give it a try.
Yeah, it's almost a never-ending process because I really liked the last weapon balance that they did, making the M416 a lot better. And then in my last episode of Loadout, I used the Scar L again, which I liked when it first came out. But now I'm like using it, and I'm like, well, it's all right at long range, but the M416 beats it in every single category now. So the more you balance some weapons, the less useful other ones become. So it just keeps going on and on.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely check out the more information about the patch, and there's also some great stats sites for weapons to find out which ones have been tweaked. And also one of the things that I do is to spread out the love amongst all the weapons. I try to get the unlocks, so there's a couple of great websites, bf3stats.com for example. I use an iPad app that sort of lists what unlocks I have coming up next, so I can try to, I guess, optimize what weapons I use. But you still have to use a weapon that's appropriate to what you're doing, and otherwise you're just goofing off. But so we'll see what happens. I want to thank you, LevelCap, for being on the show again this week. And
yeah, no problem.
People can find you at youtube.com/LevelCapGaming, correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Awesome. And you have like 2 million subscribers now?
Yeah, right. I think I'm at like 130. 130,000.
Nice. Pretty good. Pretty good.
It's okay. It's fun. It's average.
Compared to the Call of Duty channels, it's on the low side. So.
Oh boy.
Well, there is a lot of. It's interesting to see how many subscribers some channels have. It's pretty crazy. For anybody who didn't see our episode with LevelCap a few months back, we talked a little bit more in detail about YouTube in general. So as to how LevelCap got his start there and how some tips and stuff like that. So if you're interested in that, you should go back to episode 133 or something like that. You'll have to look it up. And of course, you can find all of our episodes on iTunes in audio form and on youtube.com/Battlefield Podcast in video form. Thanks to everybody in the chat for participating. Thanks to Battlefieldo for letting us stream to the Twitch channel. And we'll continue tweaking some of the streaming settings so that there's a little bit less crackly audio from the Skype thing. But other than that, we'll see you again next week. We should be back next weekend. We're going to be talking to Jay Hogan from Pure Battlefield. Anyone who's been over at Reddit perhaps probably seen they have a subreddit there for Pure Battlefield. It's all about a Battlefield server that is pure. It uses default settings, no fast vehicle spawns, none of that. So we'll talk to him a little bit about that, as well as about the Reddit community in general, because it's something that's somewhat new to me, and it seems quite interesting. There's a lot going on there. So thank you again, LevelCap, for joining us. And thank you, Tim, as well, of course, as always. And thanks to everyone in the chat. And we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
See ya.